Hello, my name is Zachariah Van Sliders with Old Man Gaming. Today it is the season of the beta, so we are back with another first impression video. First impressions of Phantasy Star Online 2. But before we get into that, I've got some disclaimers. The first disclaimer being, I am very obviously, from you hearing me, sick. So I apologize for my voice. Not much I can do for it, but just recently we had 100 subscribers. I'm not going to let you guys down. I promised this video. I'm going to get this video out. Other than that, I don't usually do a lot of disclaimers for my first impressions videos because they're first impressions videos. But in this case, we have been doing a lot of these lately. So I want to say I'm going to start doing kind of more of a format to them. In addition to that, I want to also give a general disclaimer of nostalgia. I know that there's a lot of reviewers out there and a lot of first impression people who do videos on this stuff, and they never really mention whether they're nostalgic about the project or not, and that has an influence on us as people. I played the original Phantasy Star Online on my Dreamcast, and it was late in the Dreamcast cycle, so it wasn't as popular over here as maybe some other things were. It was on its way out. But I still think that game was a trendsetter. It was one of the first MMOs out there. I think it actually predates World of Warcraft, which is known as the father of MMOs. So, on that level, this game was ahead of its time. The original game was ahead of its time. So, I was very nostalgic to get into this and very bummed out when they announced, when this game released in 2014, that it would only be in China and Japan. As far as the formatting disclaimer, I'm going to give you kind of a general feel. I'm going to do it a little bit more like my reviews. I'm going to give you a general feel of what the beta was, what exactly they were offering us, and what exactly they were showing us. And I'm going to give you my big impressions, which are the things that I really took away, that I really liked from the beta, that I'm really looking forward to. And then I'm going to give you my concerns. My concerns being, again, these are betas, so they're works in progress. They can't really be judged. They're not reviews, but my concerns are things that I noticed in the beta that are worrying me for the future of the game when it does actually release. Okay, so I've talked enough about nothing. But I do want to say one last thing. After I'm done talking, I'm going to let some footage play. The footage may actually last longer than my talking, just because that's what you guys are here for. You just kind of watch it play. So this video is going to be in no way as long like me talking the entire time. I'm going to talk until I'm done talking, and then I'll let some footage play for you guys to just check it out, especially the people who are able to do it. So let's talk about it. Phantasy Star Online 2. Something you got to keep in mind right off the bat, this game was released in 2014, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But what this game is, for a baseline of the story, is, humanity, as well as 3 other races, one of them being this living mecha thing, and then the others are kind of like versions of elves. Take to the stars, they have super high technology, but it's also kind of like tempered with kind of magic in a way. And you know what? Who cares about the story? You can go John Wick with a living mecha guy. So, bam, win button. Alright, I'm just joking. But this game, the idea behind this game is it's an MMO, so you share the game with other people. What you'll do is you'll log on to a ship, because everybody's on a ship in this fleet that's just flying around space, discovering things. And then from there's a lot of things to do. One thing that separates this game from a traditional MMO is that traditional MMOs, they kind of take place, like the battles and everything just take place with everybody running around all the time. It's actually my biggest problem with most traditional MMOs. I'm talking about like Neverwinter Nights for D&D, or Elder Scrolls Online for Skyrim and stuff like that. Basically, what you'll do is you'll go into an area. There's a couple of NPCs in kind of a safe area. You talk to them to gather all your missions for that area. And then everywhere around there's just constantly spawning monsters that you go out, you fight, you kill. And everybody else is also there running around doing the same thing. I hate this. I hate it. It takes me right out of it. It's this huge, chaotic, like, spree of whatever. It's just this never-ending battle, and it's it takes me out of the idea of, oh, I get to live in this world. I much more prefer things like Destiny 2 or Division, where, and Destiny 2 is very open world on the just free roam, but when you go into a mission, it's just a party you take with you. You're the only one interacting with that world. Same with the Division. With the Division, you only see people in safe houses and bases, and if they're not partied up with you when you walk back into the world at large, they vanish. It definitely makes me feel more like I'm in this world. I know that was a little bit of a digression, but there was a point to it. Phantasy Star Online does the same thing, which is great. For a traditional MMO to do something like this, especially given the time it was released, I actually feel like it's a little bit ahead of its time. What you'll do is you have the main ship, which has the lobby, so to speak. There's all this stuff to do on the main ship. You can see anybody else on your ship there in this lobby. Then what happens though is when you select missions, you can then go into a gateway area and head out to the mission area. You can join missions already in process, expeditions already in process, and have quite a few people running around in it. You could also join other people's mission to help them out, or you could go in solo. And even more so, that's really cool, that unfortunately you won't see any footage here because I didn't realize you could do it until I was basically turning the thing off. You can actually enlist allies, computer generated allies, so you don't even have to play it with people, but you could still get the teamwork basis. Now, I don't know how well that AI works. Of course, I didn't get to test it out, but just the idea that it's there is really cool to me. It means that you can really play this in a lot of different ways, and if you're not necessarily a social gamer, a tiny wizard, I'm looking at you, you could probably do this without really actually interacting with anybody, which is really cool.
Emergency.
Now the quest structure is very interesting. What you'll do is you'll take what's called client orders from a myriad of different places, from NPCs walking around the hub world, from quest vendors. These missions, the client orders are anything from destroy a certain number of enemies to collect a certain number of things. Then you'll also take main story missions, and I will warn you, there is a fair amount of anime bullshit in this game. So with that said, the story doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me, but honestly, I'm not playing this for the story. In any case, you will take main story missions from them. You will also take arc missions from them, and then you'll move back to a gateway ship, which gives you kind of like a miniature hub world inside, and I think this is there so that you can just keep redoing missions from the main area that you come back to over and over again. And then that takes you to a planet, and you jump down and you do the world. You go out, you do the mission. Then you come back. That's the loop. You take a bunch of quests at the hub, you head out into the area, and then you come back to the hub. Instead of like one of those big world just run-arounder things, which is interesting. Your character itself also has, skill trees. I will say I found the skill trees a little bit complicated. We'll talk about that in the concerns. But the ease of access to the character classes is really interesting. There are 9 classes that I can tell. You can only pick one of 6 at the beginning, but so I think some of those are what they call subclasses. But you can switch them at a whim without any sort of in-game currency or cost, which is awesome. So you really only need one character. It's very interesting. In addition to that, they save the loadouts for your skill trees. I don't think I've ever seen a game like. It's complicated to understand, but once you do, I don't think I've ever seen a game so friendly to builds in my days. Like, this would be, I don't know if you would like the game overall, but this would be a Philbilly Wonderland when it came to the builds. You could literally, take a skill tree of the gunner, which is always the same. You can build it out the way you want it for a specific situation, save it, then make another gunner skill tree, and then build that out differently. And then when you want to go into a battle, you just switch to the skill tree you want to use for your character. It is super easy, super fluid, and super interesting for progression. And I've gotten ahead of myself because that's my first big impression, was that. It's just phenomenal. Just absolutely phenomenal when it comes to that. The The only trick to switching character classes on a whole too is certain like every character class has kind of like a gun tree, like what they can use as far as weapons efficiently. So you kind of have to have the weapon that they use to use it. But again, any class can use not any weapon, but a good majority of them, which is also really cool. In addition to that, the way you attack and the way you use your weapons differs on how you build a loadout for that character. Meaning, right off the bat, when you select a character class, you get an extra couple of they're called like battle discs, but basically what they are is ways to attack, ways to use the weapons, abilities, I guess would be the best way to look at it. So you'll have like 3 different ones, and then there'll be different ways to actually do the combat in the game. With this, though, you can actually go into the individual abilities loadout for your character and switch what button does what. You can switch whether or not you're doing an ability, how you do that ability. And what's so cool is you can learn the abilities as you just progress. They're part of the loot that you get, which is just it's so interesting to watch this game unfold like that. Okay, so my next big impression. I would have to say my next big impression is also going to be Concern. We'll talk about that later. But this game is not graphically like explosive. Because of it, the load times are non-existent. I have never played an MMO that gets you in and out of the action faster. I really haven't. And I've played a few. Like, I'm not a super veteran of it, but especially on console, they seem to just take forever to connect to servers to load you into things. I mean, the biggest violator is Destiny. I think it takes me like a full 10 minutes to actually get into action in Destiny. With this, the load time is like immediate, and I think it's because the game was made, 6 years ago, and they haven't really like up-resed it or anything, and it doesn't look terrible, but you can tell it's an older game. But because of that, it just loads. I didn't have any connectivity issues. I know there were some people out there that did, and I will say I did not play when the thing first came on. I played Saturday morning and Sunday night and Saturday night, so I was not. I mean, I might not have been on the peak times, but I didn't have one connectivity issue. I never got booted. The maps would load in immediately. Like, I mean, I could count to 10 and I'd be in the maps and out of the maps. The cutscenes loaded immediately. And then in addition to all of that, I'm playing it on an original Xbox. The first Xbox, like first gen Xbox. So I'm not even playing it on a souped up system. That is awesome. For that alone, I'm probably going to keep playing this game over and over again. It'll keep me coming back because I can just get in, do some, get out, and there are no MMOs like that anywhere. No shared world shooters, nothing. You want to play Destiny, you better have 3 fucking hours, because if you don't, you're not playing it. Shouldn't have swore there. Sorry. I'm sick. I'm on medication. Everybody, give me one. My next big impression is the combat. I think the combat in this game is actually crazily nuanced. From what I was talking about earlier from progression, just the loadout switching, added in with this just very simple attacking mechanic. Basically, you'll see it in the footage that you're watching. Basically, what happens is when you attack or you make an action, depending on your class, this little bubble appears around them, starts blue, turns red, and then vanishes. If you attack, it's like a translucent little kind of like bubble. If you attack again when it's red, you get like 1.5 damage. And I know that seems simple and silly, but it's so perfect. When I'm playing a game with combo, something that I usually have a hard time with is I end up mashing the buttons too much. Or like the timing, it's hard to get the timing. Even with Monster Hunter World, I have a hard time with the timing because you're supposed to be following the animation of the character and then just kind of knowing when the animation gets to a point, that's when you can hit the next button for the combo. But there's so many things going on a screen that often I'm not looking at my character, I'm looking at what else is happening. I know this is an old man problem, but still, with this one, that little like red light in my peripheral tells me when to attack, and it's just great. It's like a training guide for making your brain not mash the buttons. And I enjoyed it. The nuance to it too, especially for the different classes. I didn't get to play one of the urgent missions, which we'll get into in a second, but because I kind of wanted to do more classes instead of just build one, and you had to get your character to level 20 in order to play in the urgent mission. So I knew I didn't have time for that, so I just wanted to try and like explore as much of the opening game as I could. But like the way that the hunter who was shooting his rifles and launchers worked was very different from the combo patterns of the Brave, which I also tried, and the Gunner, which I also tried. And that brought this kind of interesting nuance. Plus, certain classes have that like bubble appear when they're not attacking in certain situations, such as the Brave. When he dodge rolls, he gets the bubble right at the end. So basically you can dodge something, hit into that red, and then right into a big attack. The Gunner doesn't do that when he dodges, but he does actually have a backflip maneuver that he hits at the very end. So he can kind of like flip around the screen doing it. Plus, when he dodges, he doesn't get the bubble, but he can attack at the end of that animation. So there's just a lot of very little nuance to a very simple system that I enjoyed. So like it's very easy to go in and just play it and have fun, but it's also nice to see something that's simple enough to just anybody can pick it up, but is complicated enough to keep somebody coming back to try and master their stuff. The urgent missions I'm not going to speak on. They sound really cool. Basically, this game, I don't think this game really does raids. What they do is they just have scheduled times in which things attack the ship, or you have to go rescue something, or some big mission. Then basically what'll happen is it'll be this mission that involves the entire community. So like the fleet will get attacked. And then what happens is you load into this urgent mission, and it'll be you and 12 of the people who did load in. Every 12 like gets their own scenario, but as you clear it, it helps the overall mission, which gives everybody on the ship better rewards. That's something else that I really like, is when you sign on to a ship, if you keep signing on to that ship, other people keep signing on to that ship, so you kind of can get to know your community instead of just like whatever player of the million players is on and in that area that day. It's really cool, like, because each ship is kind of its own server. And as cool as that sounds, I really can't talk about it. I couldn't get into it. You need to be at level 20, and I never got a character above level 9, so I just didn't make it there. I'm looking forward to doing them. The other thing that I like about this whole timed community thing is they gave a lot of times. I hope that when it comes out, it stays that way, because, you know, hey, Dad has a hard time, you know, doing that kind of stuff. That time to be on at the right time sort of situation. But what was really cool is I was just in the game at the right time, right place, and they had a concert. They had like this anime concert. There was all these players in the game sitting around, and it was very cool. I'm gonna definitely put the footage up, because people could just like make comments during it, and little text bubbles would appear, and it was cool. It was like watching live streaming in a video game. Like, it was a very cool moment in shared games that I've never experienced. So I thought that was really cool. So let's get to concerns, because this video is going long. I'm definitely rambling a little bit. My biggest concern is on the whole loading thing. While it does load in, and that's great, graphics don't matter to me. They might matter to other people. This game does look a little dated. I have heard it looks better on the Xbox than it does on the old PC servers, but you got to remember, this game came out in 2014, and it's a testament that it's still around and still has such a community that it does, and such a desire for it to be in the United States that it's actually coming over in Games Pass. But it's not. it's definitely a 2014 game. It's definitely a 2014 Sega game too, because it can get a little choppy at times. There are these big monsters you fight. I love fighting big monsters. I'm a Monster Hunter World fan, but I gotta say they're probably my least favorite fights, because there will be moments where they hit me and I'm very much not anywhere where I should be hit, and other times where they don't hit me or miss me and I was very clearly in the pattern, so it makes it kind of hard to really figure out how to do it. And I don't like that lack of smoothness. It was probably my biggest downside, and it's very, very evident when you're fighting the big bosses by yourself. And I think when you fight the big bosses with a bunch of other people, it's going to be everybody's just whacking at it, which is fine, but like, I like the fact that you could kind of play this yourself, and I still beat the bosses, but there were definite moments where I'm like, I shouldn't have gotten hit there, or I should have been hit there, and it wasn't happening, which made it hard to kind of like gauge how to fight the creature and figure out my own positioning. My other big complaint, and I know that this is a little nitpicky, but it bothered me to no end, especially nowadays, because I feel like it's an easy patch, an easy fix, but a lot of this game is locking onto an enemy and then attacking that enemy with whatever you have. But if you don't lock onto an enemy, you just attack in the direction you're pointing. And that's fine. I don't have any problems with any of that. My problem is when you kill an enemy, which you kill enemies really fast in this unless you're fighting a big boss, the lock-on doesn't switch to another active enemy. It just vanishes and you have to reattach a lock-on over and over and over again. That's super annoying, guys. Come on. I know your game was made in 2014, but you're constantly updating it. Why is that happening? It's just shoddy and terrible, and it's my biggest complaint. Again, I know there's going to be people out there that are like, oh, you hated this game because of this stupid little thing. Yeah, I love this game, but that thing is stupid. It needs to be fixed, and I know it's silly and nitpicky, but that's my problem, is it's such an easy little fix that why do I have to keep reattaching the lock-on over and over again? Like, you have enough nuance that it doesn't need to be there to make it more complicated. Like, just frickin' make it so that when I kill something, it switches to somebody else. Please, I need that in this game. So, okay, so first impressions from the beta. I really like it. I'm looking forward to the open beta. I'm looking forward to this game's release. I'm actually kind of confused as to why they didn't just release it, why they're doing a beta, because there was no connectivity issues, no nothing. I don't even know why, like, they didn't just open it up, because the game is working great, and it was a lot of fun, and I'm definitely going to come back to this for all the big impressions that I made. And I'll definitely review it when it does release. So, and I just want to give one more thank you to everybody out there. I'm going to be releasing a thank you video probably sometime this week, hopefully when my voice gets a little bit better. But I just want to thank everybody out there. You guys are giving an old man a chance to live his dream, an old man and his friends, and that is just awesome. I know it's just 100, it's nowhere near getting monetized or whatever, but it really feels like a milestone to me to be in triple digits. It's really something I can show people and say, hey, this is something that we can do. And I thank everybody out there for hitting the subscribe button, for sharing this, for liking this, for commenting, for coming back. And please keep coming back, because as long as you guys keep coming back, as long as you guys keep watching and listening, we will keep making this. That's my promise to you guys. So I'll see you guys next time.